Hey everybody, Quadrajet Power here today. Quadrajetpower.com. We we've been asked quite a bit about how to adjust part throttle mixture using jet rod combinations. So I wanted to do as quick as possible of an explanation of the jet rod combinations and how the power piston, jets, rods, adjustable part throttle works in an overview, to help you understand how to adjust part throttle mixture. If you've got the gauge, you're measuring your fuel mixtures, you want to know how to make those adjustments. So I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick. That, you know, it's like everything with the Quadrajet. It's there's a whole lot more to it than what we'll touch on today. But if you're just trying to do some adjustment to richen or lean your mixture at part throttle, and part throttle is when you're cruising. You have an idle circuit, you have a part throttle circuit, you have the wide open throttle circuit for the secondaries. We're going to talk about the primary side, where you're at cruising speed using the primary side, which uses the power piston jets, the power piston spring, and rods. And like I said, it's, you know, as simple as I try to think it is, the more complicated it gets. But anyway, I'll try to get through this. So your jets are marked with a 2-number step typically. The 74 jet means the orifice in the jet is 74 thousandths of an inch. Now you have different kind of primary rods that were made for all the different models and applications. And as I've said before, the Quadrajet code number was made for a specific application for each year, each engine application. That's why there were so many code stamps, and that's why they don't interchange well between engines. They were made specifically, and the rod and jet combination, along with the power piston spring, main air bleeds, and other points calibration, were all unique to each Quadrajet. Basically, between 65 and 75, Quadrajets used a B series rod. So each rod is stamped with a 2-digit number and a letter. So a 44B rod, the B series rods, were used again in those early years, and they had a power piston. Most of them had a pin at the bottom, and the pin would limit with the APT and the base plate, adjustable part throttle screw. If you have one that's got the adjustable part throttle screw in the base plate, it has the holder here, and the pin of the power piston would sit on this, and this would limit the travel of the power piston. Now in these years, with the B series rods that would hang, it would limit where the rod sat in the jet. So the rod, in effect, sits inside the jet, and that's what adjusts your fuel mixture. So when the power piston goes up and down, based on how much vacuum you're producing. So at part throttle and at idle, your rod is sitting mostly down. As your vacuum decreases, as you accelerate, it raises the rod in the jet to allow more fuel in. Now, most of the rods, and here's my crude drawing here of of the rod tip. You can see why I didn't choose art for a career. But basically, each rod has what you'd call a power tip, and then it has a tapered section, and the tapered section varies depending on the rod, and then you just have the rod body going up. So the power tip of most rods, all B series rods, had a 26 thousandths power tip. All the rods did. Up at the top of the taper, and I know this is very hard to see, but up here at the top section is where the measurement would be, where the numbers. So if this is a 44B rod, up at the top of this section would be 44, and it's got somewhat of a taper down to the 26 thousandths power tip. So all of the B series rods, in the later K series rods, and everything but the M's and S's, I guess, but had a 26 thousandths power tip. So a wide open throttle, they all would be 26 thousandths would be what was exposed to the jet. So 74 jet minus the 26 thousandths power tip, and that's how much fuel is going through. So with this tapered area is how you adjust the part throttle mixture. So in the jet combo. So a 74 jet with a 44 rod, if you're trying to adjust your part throttle mixture, if you wanted to richen it, you'd go to a larger jet, possibly keep the same rod, depending on how rich or lean you're trying to make it. To go leaner, you'd go with a smaller jet. Now, in the same respect, you can change the rod size too. We sell rods in B series 39 to 45, in jets 68 to 78. And it's the combination there on the tapered part for part throttle that would adjust your part throttle mixtures. Now on the primary rods, there was basically 3 different types. So if you had the adjustable part throttle in the base plate and you used a B series rod, the B series rods were longer, and they don't interchange with the 76 to 89 newer ones that had the internal APT. The internal APT is like this type carburetor. The M4 has the adjustable part throttle inside the carburetor, and that you adjust this screw to adjust how high it is, and I've got videos already explaining those. So now so the early power pistons had the pin, and they had the B series rods. There are some that did not have a pin, primarily Pontiacs, and some of the 65, 66 did not have a APT in the base plate. Those were not adjustable. So if you see one without a pin, especially on Pontiac, they had a different series. I'm not going to go into that, but they were adjustable from the air horn rod. And to even complicate it further, if you pull out your power piston and you see that it had a pin but it's been clipped, that means you've got a commercially remanufactured, and it's you're not going to be able to tune that. Now the later series, like with the internal adjustable, it had a different power piston. It has a it has a pin on the back of the power piston, and that's what sits against the APT screw to limit the movement of that. So the pin is on the side instead of at the bottom, and it's a different structure. Now in the 76 with the internal APT, it used a different rod length. So the B series rods can't be used with an internal adjustable APT. We have, and we sell these here, the APT rods, we call them. So they actually have most of the rods that came, and you could see K series. There's all different numbers and variations that we saw through the years. Basically the K series, where it had a 26 power tip, and then the number that you would see, anything from the 40s even up to the 50s, would be the size at the top of the taper, and then it would have a varying taper down to the 26 power tip. So what we sell is a custom made rod that is, we call it the full taper rod, meaning it starts up here at about 45 thousandths, and then it is tapered fully, a smooth taper all the way down to the 26 power tip. So you've got all this room to adjust with the APT screw to get your mixture right. Now, like I said, to complicate things even further, Chevrolet trucks had a single main air bleed system in those, and they had a 36 thousandths power tip. So that's the exception to the power tip. Those rods had a 36 thousandths, and we have custom rods for those as well that are full tapered from about 50 thousandths at the top and fully tapered down to the 36,000 power tip. So, so again, to adjust your mixture, if you're going to work with a jet rod combo, you got to figure out what type of carburetor you have. So if you've got the B series, you need to know what jets you have, what rods you have, and adjusting the larger jet will richen your mixture. At the same time, a smaller rod, for example, going from a 44 thousandths rod to a 42 thousandths or a 39B rod would richen the mixture as well, because you're have a smaller taper that's going into the rod bore itself, so allowing more fuel to go through. So larger jet, smaller rod would richen, smaller jet, larger rod would lean your mixture at part throttle. And that's kind of an overview of how you could adjust your part throttle mixture using jet rod combinations. There's a lot of other factors in place. We're glad to help with that. If you email us your carburetor number, your engine specifications, we can suggest what rod jet combo to use. If you know what you have, or if it's stock configuration, we can help you with that as well. But we sell all the components here at quadrajetpower.com. Hopefully this kind of helps clarify how to do that adjustment and how to understand how to get your mixture correct for part throttle on your Quadrajet. So have questions, email us, info@quadrajetpower.com. You can buy all the components at quadrajetpower.com. We have just about everything that you need at our website. So thanks for watching the video. Have a great day.